Hello and good afternoon, everyone. So, I was kind of thinking about what we could discuss and what I wanted to go over with a lot of you. And I think what I want to talk about is the media. There's a lot of talk on the left and the right about fake news and what you can believe and what you can't believe. It's true that news sources, CNN, Fox, Washington Post, BBC, Al Jazeera, they all have a bias. So when we look at news, we have to ask ourselves, is this coming from the left or the right? What is the skew that people are putting on it? And if you're watching CNN, you're going to have a very leftist view of something. And if you're watching Fox News, it's obviously going to be the right. And the other news companies, they sort of fall somewhere in the middle, between the left and the right. So, if that's true, then what can we believe as consumers? Well, fundamentally, we need to check a variety of different sources. So if CNN says something, my first thought is to go check Fox, BBC, and maybe a couple others that I usually look at, and see what they're saying about the same source. And usually you're going to see similarities in the story, and those are the facts that you're looking for. And it's important, especially if you're getting your news from Instagram, Twitter, some type of social media, it's important to see what's being tweeted or being shared and then just cross check it. It takes, 30 seconds to look something up to Google it and then to look up the sources that come up. So that's what I do for everything. So if I see something, my first thought is I need to check this because I want to know, is this accurate and is this true? And sometimes I learn, yeah, it was. And other times I've caught things that are just twisted and skewed. So the coronavirus, is it scary? Yeah, it can be. It can be totally scary. We're dealing with a virus that we've not had to deal with in the past. It's new, and anything new is scary. And does it have people died from it? Yeah, people have died from it. And so that in and of itself can be scary. The good news is that the majority of people who contact the coronavirus, some don't even know they have it. It's called being asymptomatic, and others have a very mild case. What we are doing by self-quarantine is we're helping the disease not spread. The term that I keep seeing over and over again is flattening the curve. So we want to make sure that the disease, the virus, lives and dies with the one person without us infecting everyone else. The coronavirus is passed through droplets like spit. So if we sneeze, we cough, we talk. We've all had a teacher. We've been in the splash zone. It's not pretty. And so we want to make sure that we're not doing that. We're not coming in contact with people. The whole 6-foot thing, that's basically because that's about how far it's going to go. So try not to get all hugged up with each other. I'm trying not to see my parents. Love you, Mom. I know you're going to watch this. Because my parents are in a more sensitive age group, and they don't need to. I don't need to be with them at this moment. I FaceTime, video chat, and my husband works at a major hospital. I'm a teacher, so I've been in contact with a lot of kids during the quarantine time, and so we don't need to be around anybody in case one of us has it, and it's either in its incubation period or we were just asymptomatic to it. It's not really hurting anything. I mean, it's hard. I'm not used to doing this as a teacher. I'm not used to putting out YouTube videos. I'm not used to doing video chats. I'm not used to this kind of teaching, but it's a learning curve, and it's not the end of the world. It's temporary, and so I don't need to go anywhere and hang out with people right now, because it's temporary. This too shall pass. I do want to talk also about some of the wording that's being used for in regard to the coronavirus. America loves a good enemy. We love an enemy. You know, in the Civil War, it was the North versus the South, and then we have World War I and World War II, and we have there's our enemy. You know, we see them. They have a different uniform than us. Then there's Korea, again, there's their uniform. The Cold War, which was, we don't like you because you're different than us, but we're not going to actively fight you. We're just going to be mad at you and give you the side eye. Vietnam, harder. No real discernible enemy, but we knew who they were. They were hiding over there somewhere. So we had an enemy. We had that enemy. Then we moved to, you know, Afghanistan and the war on terror. And that's a little more vague. The war on terror. Okay, you know, it's there, but it's vague. We have the war on drugs, which I'm pretty sure we lost that, quite frankly, in my opinion. Total speculation. The war on obesity. We like a war. So to now have the war on disease, of course we do. Of course we do. We need an enemy, and the disease is the enemy. I do not agree with calling it the Chinese virus. I get it. Came from China. Okay. Not necessary. There's already enough hatred towards people in the world that I don't think we need to add to that by calling a disease the enemy and naming that disease with the markers of an entire group of people. Just call it COVID-19, the coronavirus, the Rona. I don't care, but let's leave people out of it. Let's leave an entire culture out of it. I don't think that's necessary. The president talking about how this is an invisible enemy, which is the hardest enemy to fight. Yeah, I guess, you know, if your enemy doesn't show up, it's pretty difficult. But it's a disease. I don't know if we're ever going to, like, are we ever going to be able to win the war on disease? We have the flu, we have colds, you know, they have a cycle. The scientists learn and grow, and we learn to combat that. It's a virus, and virus has to take its course, so it'd be great if they could find a vaccine for it. You know, we don't have a vaccine for other colds. We do for the flu, but not for other colds. And so I don't know how that's going to work. I'm not a scientist. I stay in my lane. I leave that kind of stuff to a scientist because I trust them. They have the education behind it. I'm just reading what they write about, and I'm just some AP Gov Econ US history teacher that is spouting off stuff on the internet about it. Excuse me. Have to have coffee, right? It's decaf. It's a little late in the day. From what I'm reading, the whole reason why we're staying in our house, I'm telecommuting my job. Poor parents everywhere trying to homeschool their children. You know, not the ones who want to, because that's cool, but the ones who are like, I didn't sign up for this, and doing a great job from what I'm seeing on the internet. So my Facebook friends and Instagram friends, thank you, parents, because I wouldn't want your job right now. It's a very tough job. But we are doing this because we're trying to help the medical community prepare for the most fragile in our society. And if I catch the coronavirus and I have a slight cough and a temperature, but I'm otherwise fine, I'm not going to clog up the hospital. I'm going to leave that for somebody who needs a respirator, needs more intensive treatment. That's why we're staying home. That's why we're just doing this. So, yeah, it's concerning. We hear a lot in the media, but I'm going to ask you to put the media down for a while. Like, don't go online. Give yourself, even if it's half an hour a day, put everything down and go read a book or meditate or do yoga or play a video game. Do something that isn't constant stimulation of what's happening in the news, because that's not good for mental health. And that's not good for anyone right now. That's not good to have that constant barrage of negativity thrown at us. The good news is, if I can say one good thing that's sort of come of this, well, I'm sure I could think of more, but the one thing I'm thinking of right now is that a critical support bill was signed by the president today, and it was bipartisan. On my notes over here, it was bipartisan. That means finally our government is working together to do something that's good for the majority of Americans. I don't think I've seen this since the first couple of years of Obama, because after the first couple of years, House sort of swung right, and then Trump came in, and he had a little bit of time, and then the House swung left. So we've been having the House, the Senate, the president. There's been this constant bickering among adults for almost a decade, and today something was done that where they put their differences aside, and we realized that the coronavirus is going to affect people on both sides of the aisle. Both. It's not a left thing, and it's not a right thing. And I'm sorry, but it's not a government. It's obviously not a government conspiracy, because for a long time our whole swaths of our government thought this was a bunch of baloney, and this isn't made up. This isn't a made-up illness. Is it as bad as everyone's saying? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I know people are dying. I know it's affecting a lot of people. And regardless of my personal thoughts on this, it's here. It is here. And this is how our government and our scientists and our doctors, this is how they're saying to deal with it. So it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what my personal feelings on this are. It doesn't matter what your personal feelings on this are. What matters now is that we act accordingly. And if me sitting at home and telecommuting and doing Google Meet to teach saves one person, then I'm cool with it. It's fine. So that's about it for today. I'll be back on again tomorrow. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, go ahead and drop them into the comments below. Feel free to share my video with anybody you think might enjoy it. Hit the subscribe button. I feel like a real YouTuber now. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe, stay sane, and stay informed. Have a great night, everyone.